Alright YouTube, so we are back of course talking about some Final Fantasy VII Remake, and specifically Intergrade of course, but if we want to be even more specific, they've officially given a name to the Yuffie DLC, which they've been referring to as Episode Yuffie for the entire time now, and it's called Episode INTERmission. And they have the INTER part capitalized on the name. I don't know what that means exactly. And since I'm mentioning this here at the beginning of the video, we might as well discuss it. The fact that they gave an official name to this DLC now, especially like a month and a half after it was revealed, which is kind of weird, it kind of seems like there would be other DLC at some point. Like, why do they need to specifically give this one a name unless there's going to be more episodes, which also have to have their own names? And if they did already have a name for this DLC, like, why didn't they tell us this when it was revealed? Like, here's Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, which is the PS5 version of Remake, but also here's Episode INTERmission, the Yuffie DLC. Like, it's weird that this is being revealed all this time later. But anyways, of course, we're looking at the information that was released over the past, 24 hours or so, which was the Famitsu article, but also just kind of the information that's out there in general, because they also posted, a Square Enix article today, which I just showed the screenshot of. So we'll start with kind of a big one. So we actually did end up getting a character render of Weiss, which I thought was a bit surprising. This was speculated by DHKF on Twitter, and I said that in the last video that I didn't think it was going to happen unless Weiss is a more important character than we've led to believe, and based on the description we got, it seems like he is. And of course, the translations we look at are done by Audrey on Twitter, the usual. Let us raise the curtains in the beginning of what is called the End. A ruler donned in all white who controls Shinra's top-secret underground research center, Deepground. He hones superhuman strength, is very charismatic, sadistic, and cruel. Due to his unparalleled strength, he is restrained to a throne hidden deep beneath Midgar, and is only released when he is being experimented on. As he is kept under inhumane conditions, he quietly waits for a chance to exact his revenge. So why I say it feels like he's going to be more important than we've been led to believe is that we don't need a character render and a backstory on what is essentially just a battle simulation fight, which is what we've been told that Weiss is, but the fact that we're getting this pretty in-depth description on the character, I feel like he's going to be more important to the remake story. Maybe not in this DLC, but the fact that we're seeing and learning about him now, I feel like he's going to come up at some point, whether that's part 2, this DLC, part 3, a different DLC, who knows. And something else here that is very important is the quote that came along with the character description, let us raise the curtains in the beginning of what is the end, is almost what Genesis says at the end of Dirge of Cerberus, together let us raise the curtains on the final act. Like, they're different, but very, very similar. A lot of people do think that Genesis has some sort of effect on the remake story. There's been all kinds of different theories out there, but this was very, very interesting. It could just be a bit of an Easter egg or a reference, because at the end of Dirge of Cerberus, Genesis is picking up Weiss right here, but still. Next up, we have a description on the Avalanche branch that Yuffie is helping out, and it says, a powerful group called Avalanche that is against the actions of Shinra and raises awareness of the planet's life force. Barrett's side of Avalanche uses violent ways to oppose Shinra, such as blowing up the Mako reactors, but the main Avalanche branch is different and wants to protect the lives of the citizens and free them of the grip that Shinra has on them. In order to build ties with the Wutai government, they assist them with a plan to steal the ultimate materia. This, of course, is describing pretty much all the people we're seeing Yuffie interact with throughout the trailers and stuff that we have so far for the DLC. Next up, we have a character profile for the blonde guy we've seen throughout the 2 trailers we have so far. And his name's spelled weird, Zhijie. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm just going to call him Ziggy for now, until we hear his name spoken. You refers to you guys. It's like a secret word. A Wutaian, maybe that's how you say that, who lives in Midgar. He acts as the liaison between the Wutai government and main Avalanche branch. With his street smarts and fast moves, he's been able to survive by sliding out of trouble. He shows Yuffie around the Sector 7 slums. Next up, we have a character profile for her, and her name is spelled Nayo, so Nayo or something. I don't know. This team-up will be the bridge to the future, I just know, which is a bit on the nose since this game is literally supposed to be the bridge between Part 1 and Part 2. A member of the main Avalanche branch. She was born in the slums. Hidden within the Sector 7 slums, she oversees the actions of the branch. She receives a request from the Wutai government for assistance and helps them devise a strategy. She prepares a fake ID that Yuffie and the others need to access the upper plate. So 2 takeaways from this character description is, one, that Yuffie is going to go topside at some point, which we have seen in one of the trailers we do see her on the train with Sonon or whatever. And also the fact that she's making the fake IDs to ride the train. Is she the one that made the fake IDs for our Avalanche, for Jesse, Biggs, Wedge, Barrett, and Cloud? Next up, we get a character description for a guy named Billy Bob, of all fucking names. And he's a character that's in the initial trailer we got for this DLC, for Intergrade or whatever. I just never noticed him. I did just notice him recently while making this video, though. Midgar has Shinra victims too, don't forget that. A member of the main Avalanche branch, he was born in the slums. Although he's extremely experienced compared to the other members who are hidden away at the Sector 7 slums, he doesn't put his experience to work and instead has a very laid-back personality. He's very good with alcohol and can drink as much as he wants without getting drunk. He apparently collects his intel from people at bars. Next up, we have another character description, and it's yet again another character that I didn't even realize was in this game. He's in the background of the trailer as well, and his name is Polk. P-O-L-K. You're bored? How about playing Fort Condor? A member of the main Avalanche branch, he was born in the slums. He's the youngest member of the Sector 7 Avalanche branch in hiding. Everyone treats him like a younger brother, and even though they make fun of him, he's adored by them. In regards to devising strategies, he's super into the popular strategy game called Fort Condor. And with the English article that I kind of referenced earlier in the video, they specifically say that Fort Condor is a board game within, like, the slums of Midgar. So a bit of just random speculation, but this might be how they handle the Fort Condor, like, mini-game from the original game now. Like, it's just a board game you play with other characters or something like that, instead of actually going to the Fort Condor location to do this. Now, whether or not it's going to be similar to the original game's Fort Condor minigame or not, or very, very different because it's a board game, I have no idea. Something else that I'd seen that I thought was a bit interesting that I'm not sure if Audrey had seen or translated anywhere, but with the English article, they specifically say that the destruction of Mach Reactor 5 is kind of what gives Wutai the opening to, like, go ahead with the mission into Midgar with Yuffie and so on and stuff like that. Which, of course, is why we get that segment in the trailer where Yuffie is seeing Barret and Tifa, but no Cloud, because this is, of course, after Cloud has fallen down to Aerith. Next up, we're going to look at the description of some of Yuffie's abilities and kind of how she fights whenever it comes to remake. I don't know what to call this shit anymore. INTERmission? Got him Intergrade? Yuffie DLC? I'm lost. The damage dealt by Yuffie's ability, Banishment, is increased by having spent ATB on other commands, and its elemental affinity can be changed with elemental ninjutsu. Yuffie's Windstorm ability damages nearby enemies with a gust of wind and launches them toward you. Press the square button to strike enemies with Yuffie's throwing star and hold it to continue attacking while putting distance between you and your foe. The weapon will return to Yuffie automatically after a certain amount of time, but you can also retrieve it sooner by pressing triangle. Also, the English article specifies that whenever her throwing star is away from her, hitting squares would allow you to do long-range ninjutsu attacks. Ninjutsu attacks initially deal non-elemental damage, but the ability Elemental Ninjutsu can change the attack's affinity to fire, ice, lightning, or wind, making it easier to exploit enemy weaknesses. Now this one I want to put a little bit of emphasis on because I thought it was really cool. Because I've actually been into some fights, like my first playthrough going through Remake, where I didn't have the right material. Like say I go into a fight, enemies are weak to fire, none of my team have like a fire material equipped. Like that's happened to me before. But with Yuffie, that would never really be the case. Like, because of this elemental ninjutsu ability, she's kind of always prepared for every single fight and can, like, help stagger enemies. And last up for the info that I've seen over the past 24 hours or so is that we have a list of some of the voice actors. Despite us getting all those character profiles that we have, we only got the voice actors for maybe, like, half the characters. First up, we have the voice actor for Ziggy, which is kind of surprising because the fact that he's getting a voice actor, at least they're publicly addressing it, means he might be a little more important than some of the other characters. But it's Griffin Puatu or something like that, I believe is how to pronounce a video said it was pronounced, but I don't know how to say his last name. Next up, we have the voice actor for Sonon, which is Alex Lay Early. And when it comes to voiceover artists and stuff, my dudes, I don't really know them. I don't recognize them. Maybe this guy's like super famous and popular and you guys know who he is. I just don't know. I could look them up, I suppose, but they've probably done a bunch of obscure animes and shit that I've never watched. Next up, we have the voice actor for Weiss, which is Damon Mills, and we actually have heard him talk at the end of the Yuffie trailer. Very briefly, he just says, like, let the hunt begin or something like that. Something about the hunt. I don't remember.
Now, let the hunt begin!
And lastly, we got the voice actor for My Girl Yuffie, who is Susie Young, and she's the only one that did kind of look up her voice acting history and stuff like that. And I kind of quickly looked it over, and the only thing that I kind of recognized was Attack on Titan, which I've watched very little of. And she did some voiceover work for Smite, which is, of course, another video game. She's the only voice actor I looked up because, obviously, Yuffie's kind of the more important character here. Out of all the ones we just looked at, all the voice actors and stuff, like, we don't know how prominent those characters are going to be going forward, but Yuffie will be here till, presumably, the end of Remake Story. And I suppose if the story kind of plays out like the original FF7 compilation did, then technically Weiss would be here till after Remake Story as well, since he doesn't show up until Dirge Cerberus, but still, whatever. But my dudes, I think that's where we're going to wrap up this video. It's pretty long already, and there might have been stuff that I've missed or not talked about in this video. If there are, be sure to let me know in the comments below. But goddamn, that was a lot more than I thought it was. It didn't seem like that much until we started recording. But kind of a brief kind of overall of what we just discussed. Out of everything, like the thing that sticks out to me the most right now for some reason is Weiss. Like I do feel like he's going to be a more prominent character in the remake story somehow. I don't know how. Who knows what the fuck they're doing with this game. But the fact that we're getting a backstory on him, the fact that they're telling us like this dude's locked below Midgar right now, the Shinner's got him under lock and key and shit like that. It seems like unnecessary information unless he's going to be featured within the remake story at some point. Either way, that's the video. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you guys already watched today. More Final Fantasy VII Remake content, INTERmission content, Intergrade content. I don't know what the hell's going on. Turn on my notifications. Follow me on Twitter, @DavidYT. I'm a Discord. The links to those networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Rogaine, or leave it like Cobain.